This is Sarah King. Her Instagram is Nerds Guide to FI. And I've known her for 2 years now, I think. And an amazing friend, colleague, and we like to bounce things off of each other. So welcome to my podcast. And
Thank you, Mark.
It's always
a pleasure.
Thank you so much for being here. So glad you're here.
I'm so excited to do this. Yeah.
Oh, me too. Me too. It's been a while. I was on your podcast how long ago? Gosh,
Oh.
a year ago?
It would have been in 2020, probably.
Yeah,
Was the first one.
Okay.
Almost 2 years ago. It was
Time
like during the
flies.
pandemic, for sure.
Yeah, that's right. I was wearing my pajamas. On the bottom. White t-shirt
On the bottom.
top.
See, I didn't know that. You only see from the top up.
White t-shirt on top. So anyway, well, let's get into it. I do campfire real estate with Gerald and Welby and Dan, and he introduced me to all three of those guys, and it's so funny that he just keeps coming up in my life almost on a daily basis. And he thought the world of you. And when we were introduced, we became friends pretty quick, and we've stayed in touch for over 2 years now, probably. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And that's how we met. But when I met you, you were doing a lot of investing. You had quite a few properties, not dozens or anything, but you were on your way up. And then all of a sudden, something really, really bad happened in your life, and you had to start selling your properties. Can you just touch on that real quick and kind of walk us through how that happened? And then I want to talk about what happened since then and the amazing butterfly transformation that you've made. And I'm still in awe. But anyway, I don't want to steal your thunder.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think around the time, so Rick and I became such good friends because I did a Q&A session with one of the bigger pockets, like personalities, like not one of the big guys, but it was like a small recording where I could just like ask for advice. And I was in the beginning of my divorce and trying to decide what to do with these rental properties that we had together. So I had been married, so a guy I dated from high school, and we did like Dave Ramsey together, and essentially around 2019 is when things started to fall apart. So we got married in 2016. 2019, like things started to get really messy, and that's when me and Rick became close. But essentially, he reached out after he heard me talk about what was happening and what to do with these houses that we had together. We had 5 properties. 3 of them were investment properties. One of them was actually a piece of land that we ended up flipping and made like doubled our money on this Facebook piece of land I bought, but didn't expect to use it that way, which is pretty awesome. But so Rick and I bonded over that because he's like, my daughter went through a bad relationship, and hearing you explain your story, it sounded just like her when she was with a guy that ended up making really bad choices in life. And so for me, I started talking to Rick, and I'm like, I didn't say a lot in my interview, but he just kind of got it. And so I started telling him, like, it was crazy in 2019. Like, we had a daughter. She was 3 months old. And around 3 months old is the first time I caught my husband using drugs. And you don't expect that to happen. It was extremely embarrassing. Like, I've went to college for way too long to have this shit happen to me. I have my stuff way too together to happen. And so it was extremely embarrassing to, like, have to admit to your friends and family that, like, your marriage is falling apart and your husband is, like, off doing who knows what. And so he just, like, had this really bad drug addiction. And it really just changed his entire life.
This had never reared its ugly head prior to that. It was just, I mean, were you absolutely shocked?
Yeah.
Or okay, there was nothing that came up before that would lead you to believe that there was any issue.
So everyone will ask me this. So I will say,
of course.
Yeah. So there's kind of 2 veins. So like, yes, there's always warning signs.
A lot of times, even in investing, a lot of times we'll like say things to ourselves to like, like a property that's not working well. And it's like, well, but it's going to come back. It's going to come. We talk ourselves into stupid things. So
So he always struggled with like alcohol addiction. And I will say that was kind of around from the beginning. Like, you think he'll handle it. As soon as we got married, he got his first DUI. He got 2 DUIs while we were married, and now he has 3. And so you just don't expect it to get that much worse. Like, I feel like you get married, you buy a house, you start building a business together, and you kind of grow up. And I feel like I thought we were going to grow up together. And so it's this terrible mentality of like, oh, you're the girl that thought you'd like make him better and like help him out. And kind of I am that dumb person, but you want the best for someone that you fell in love with at 16. You want them.
I'm sorry. Let's back up. Let's unwind that a little bit.
Yeah.
You're not dumb. You're not dumb. You're hopeful. And that's why you've done so well with a lot of other things in your life. So, yeah, some things can't be fixed.
Right. And so learned that the hard way. But to be honest, like, you would have never expected him to have like a serious drug problem. Like, you just, like, to this day, I think some of his family don't believe that it happened, even though like clearly there's documentation and proof. Like, no one wants to believe that he was like struggling that bad. And it's just hard because that's a person you care about and you don't see them ending up that way, but they do. And it's hard to watch someone you care about kind of fall apart, and then you just have to move on. From that.
So let's skip ahead a little bit. So he's out of the house. You're selling all your...
left.
Okay, you left. and now you've got to sell all your properties. Whether it was court mandated or... Yeah.
So I left with our daughter was about 8-9 months old, and I called my parents and was like, I'm moving in with you.
Nice.
At the age of like 31.
Yeah.
I
You're
was
that
like,
old?
Yeah. I'm 33.
What?
Yeah.
Seriously. They grew up so
and
fast.
So, it was crazy because I was about to be 31 and I called them and I'm like, I have to get out. It's not safe anymore. And my mom came and we like packed up as much as we could in like a couple hours and just left. Because it was just really not a safe environment to be in.
Was it the judge that said that you got to sell everything, or was that something you decided, or?
Ultimately we decided, so we did a couple rounds of mediation, and then every time we go to mediation, he would have a new ask, as to which properties. Yeah, he had a new desire for something else, and it was pretty clear, like, when you watch someone get addicted to like a pretty serious drug, like their thinking is just different, and it was very clear. I'm like, there is no way we're going to work through the process of like figuring out how to divide up these properties, let alone like I'm very concerned about him managing any of these tenants' lives. And so finally I was like, let's just liquidate everything and take the money and go. And so that's what we did. Okay,
so now we're going to fast forward again. And now you've sold all the properties, which was, I know that was a lot. We talked a few times during that period of time.
That sucked.
Yeah, it did. It was hard. But at the same time, I think we said something to the effect of, you're young and it's going to come back and don't worry about it.
Right.
Which, easy for me to say, but it does work that way. So you sold everything and then you started rebuilding. And when did you buy... Now, how many properties do you have right now? And I'm not a big door count guy, but I just want everyone to know what you've done in a short amount of time. So let's how many doors do you have now?
I have 13 doors, 6 properties.
Okay, that's amazing. And you bought that on the second round. Let's call your second.
So I started over. This is round 2 of real estate investing.
Yeah. And you got started on what day? I mean, what date?
So when about 3 months after I moved out, I bought a house hack for myself, and I bought that with private money. So
I like private money.
Yeah.
We'll talk about
so that was my
later.
First foray into private money. Was
and that was how long ago was that?
That was in 2020. It was on we went to closing on my daughter's first birthday. So it was June 23rd, 2020.
Okay. So we're talking 2 years ago. God, 2 years? That's it? Okay.
Yeah.
So knowing what you know now, you probably could have done the same thing the first round, right? You could have like quadrupled your doors in that amount of time.
Right.
So
I mean, I've bought 9 doors this year.
Yeah, I know.
So it's a little I kind of got a little overzealous. No, in the best way. I wouldn't do it any other way. It's been great. I'm just.
Well, yeah. But I think one of the things that people out there trying to get involved in this game, they look at people like you. You know, I've done this over a long period of time, and slowly built my empire. But you know, you've built your basic empire here in a very short amount of time. I know you're going to keep on building, but
yeah,
it's really difficult for a lot of people out there to get their arms around doing it so quickly. And I don't necessarily advise people to do that.
Including myself previously.
Yeah. I know. That's another conversation I believe we had. And I'm not saying that I was like the nexus. I was more I've been a sounding board more than anything else with you.
Extremely helpful sounding board, invaluable sounding board.
Thank you. But I think, you know, you've surprised me and amazed me, even after the conversations we've had. What you've accomplished is like, it's blown me away. And
thank you.
I want people to know that building an empire doesn't have to take 20 years. You can do it in 5 or 6, 7 years. I don't suggest rushing it if you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. Luckily for you, you had a lot of experience on the second round. So,
right.
All right. So we've got that. Very impressive. I mean, you know, I think the world of you, and it's amazing what you've done. All right. Anyway, so next question is going to be, I don't want to ask this question because I like to ask what's the hardest, biggest thing that you've had to overcome, and that's kind of what we started with. So we won't go into that again.
It's funny that the first thing that came to my mind is like plumbing.
Plumbing. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. Plumbing. Yeah, plumbing is a difficult thing in your area, every area.
Oh,
so
boy.
let's go there. So you've got a lot of houses now, and you've had a lot of houses in the past. And I am lucky enough, and everybody else. By the way, if you're not following Sarah, go to Nerd's Guide. Is it Nerd's Guide to FI?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Not that.
Yeah.
Go to Nerd's Guide to FI, and follow her. She is we're a little bit alike, a lot alike. We both show the good, the bad, and the ugly of real estate investing. But in the end, we're both very, very pleased and happy that we have it. But I've seen some of the stuff that you've posted. I mean, you had that one with the Airbnb debacle, and I've seen plumbing issues. And I mean, sometimes I'll open up Instagram and I'll see you on there, and it's like, oh God, what happened now? But the cool thing is you always have that infectious laugh. It's like, yeah, you know, it happens. Mm-hmm. I know you're not really feeling that inside, but and you get over it and you get past it.
Sometimes it's just like another thing. Like you just don't. I feel like after going through like a horrific divorce, like not a lot freaks me out anymore. Where I really, my bar is low. There are definitely panic days, like where you're really not happy and you're worried about stuff. But at the end of the day, it's just not that huge of a deal most of the time.
Does it get easier?
Yes.
Okay.
I will say, like, you don't notice it at the time, but they'll be, like, 2 days later, I'll be like, oh, well, that Airbnb horror story, like, I could dramatize it for Instagram a lot, but honestly, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
You just made a list of things you need to switch out. You order them. Like, I ordered everything in a day. You call your handyman. I have one of those that came and replaced the door. He went and bought the new door for me, and you just have systems, and so it becomes easier. It was a cool story.
It rolls. It's a cool story. Yeah. People need to know. But at the same time, you just made some phone calls and took care of business. Yeah. Basically. So,
the horror story was very like photographable, but it wasn't really that horrific.
It was very, very photographable. We had somebody at one of our Hawaii condos one time that set up some sort of cooking barbecue or something.
Oh.
And we had carpet in that unit, which we obviously don't have any more carpet now. But and they burned a hole in the middle of the carpet. And they thought that was okay. Yeah. And the kids put stickers on everything, and they broke some appliances. And it was just like, oh my God, people live this way. And
people are really disrespectful, yeah.
Well, when we went back to bill them for it. It's like, well, we didn't do that. And it's like, no, we've got pictures before and after. You did it. It's like, no, the carpet was stained there. It's like, there's no carpet there anymore, lady.
There's literally the carpet's gone.
It's concrete. And we went back and forth and back and forth. And well, I'm going to give you a bad review. It's like, why are you going to give us a bad review? So
yeah.
what do you do?
Oof.
What do you do? So if someone does that to you, what do you do if they threaten to give you a bad review? If you call them out?
I haven't had it happen yet. I mean, honestly, my Airbnb guest that like terrorized my house like gave me a 5-star review somehow. So
they gave you a 5-star review?
I've been really, really lucky so far. I'm sure it's going to happen one of these days, but I at least try to work with people. And honestly, Airbnb handled most of it.
Wait. Did you charge them, or was that an Airbnb insurance thing?
It was an Airbnb insurance thing all through AirCover. So it didn't really impact their bottom line. So
awesome. Okay, well, and they had
for better or worse.
And they had a really good time, apparently.
They had a really good, or a bad time. A really good time that ended up a really bad time, I think, as well.
Sounds like it. It sounds like it. All right, let's move past that one. So that was like one big one I saw. But what's like a day-to-day grind that you have to deal with? Like you mentioned plumbing earlier. Is that like something that happens a lot?
I feel like the month of June was just like a shit show. Can I say that on your podcast?
You can say shit show all you want to. Yeah.
The month of June was just like a hot mess. Like I just feel like everything was breaking. Like I had a furnace go out. I had plumbing leaks. I had two different plumbing leaks.
I'm going to add this up. So furnace is about $3,500.
Furnace and AC, because the furnace was $19.89. Like it was kind of due to go out anyway. I just didn't need it.
So about $7,000?
Yeah. Okay. 6,200.
Yeah, I'm close. And then you had some other plumbing stuff. What was that?
2 miscellaneous plumbing leaks.
Okay. About how much?
I don't know, like a couple $100. Like just some copper and you fix it.
Okay.
I did a new electrical panel in my house because I had like a weird short thing happening. And then at the time we just upgraded the whole panel because it was really not done well or right.
Yeah.
So I think that was probably, you can guess, this is fun.
$2,500.
Yeah. Ish. I think it might have been 3,000 because I had him switch out some light fixtures when he was there.
I know my numbers.
I know. Yeah.
All right.
I'm starting to know like rehab numbers really well, and it's fun.
That's good.
And then the biggest thing was, so I have my original house hack, like the original house hack I bought.
This is all in June.
This is all in June.
Nice. Okay.
My original house hack I bought, the tenants called and they're like, hey, the dishwasher and the kitchen sink aren't draining anymore. So we really can't use the kitchen because there's no, like the water won't go down or won't drain. Like if it sits all night, like sometimes it's still there, but it'll drain a bit, but it's really not going down. It's clogged somewhere. 8 different plumbers. Oops, sorry about that. 8 different plumbers looked at this leak because it was a walkout basement. It was the downstairs unit. It was like a single family home I converted into an up-down duplex. And so the second level, it was in the foundation, it was on the back wall, and it was either under the driveway in the middle or it was inside the house, and they couldn't really figure out where it was. And the guy... And, like, I had Roto-Rooter come out first. They were worthless. I had this little Amish guy come out and, like, pour vinegar and do a dance over it. I don't really know what he did. Like, something ridiculous. I called a lot of people, and once I told them this Amish man that's well-known and Roto-Rooter said no, they're like, well, I'm not going to do it either. Because they're really busy. It's peak summer. They don't have time. They just want, like, grandma whose drain needs, like plungered and to call it a day and call it, like, a $200 house charge. They don't want to come work on your, like, really complicated plumbing problem. And then I had another guy come out and he tried to do a flexible like scope, and that didn't work because he couldn't get like far enough into the line. He's like, there's something weird going on, so he had to drive and go get some other kind of scope.
It's a freaking sewer line. How complicated can it be?
And he's like, I feel like what I'm feeling is a T junction. And he's like, I'm not sure why there's a T, but he's like, that's what I feel like it is because I've been doing this for a while. And he's like, I think it's broken, but I don't know. And I don't know if it's in the house or just outside of the house, and it's under the driveway, like near the garage.
He feels like it is? He feels like
he
it
feels
is.
like, and I'm like about to come unglued because I'm like, this is not like, any other, like this is why the Airbnb problem is easy because I'm like, I call one guy, I'm like, hey Peter, I need you to get in this week and change out a door, and he's like, sweet, and he'll just go do it. Like this is a real problem.
I'm sorry, Sarah. I want to go back to he feels like. It's like this is a feeling he's having?
Yeah, no, he's like, I've been doing it for a long time and I feel like this is what's happening. But that was the best answer I could get out of all of the people that came to look at it. And then plumber number 8, his kids were getting married in Pennsylvania and he couldn't work on it or something. And so they're like, call this guy. Whenever there's a really bad plumbing problem, we call like Amzy or what, I don't even remember his name. Anyway, so this other guy ends up coming out like number 8 and he looks at it and he's like, I just think it's better if we just start over and run a new line. Like, this is bad. He's like, something's wrong with this main line. Let's just scrap it. And but then, like,
it's almost like these guys were talking to each other, right? It's like, all right, okay, then we're going to send this guy out the end. It's going to be a really, really large bill. We'll all split it.
Right. I have no idea. Yeah. So then I ended up, and then I ended up calling back this guy that was in Pennsylvania for a wedding that couldn't get out there. I think he was actually number 7. And then number 8 seemed like, oh my gosh, this bill is going to be like $10,000. Like, that's just the feeling you get by the end. And so I'm like, I'm going to wait for this guy who's in Pennsylvania that everyone says is really good. Like, I'm going to give it a week. I gave the tenants free. Like, I deducted their rent for the next month. I'm like, for all the days you're out of plumbing and don't have a functional kitchen, like, I'll just take it. Like, you're not going to have to pay for those days. Like, a kitchen's a basic need. And so they were happy. They went to go stay at, like, their mom's lake house or something that they had. And we're working on this plumbing situation. I'm just so glad it didn't affect the Airbnb people upstairs. Like, thank goodness it was isolated to the basement. And then the hard part was to run a new plumbing line. Like, the stack was full. Mm-hmm. So, like, for people who don't know, I know enough to be dangerous. That's bad. Mm-hmm. So there's a stack of plumbing, and so in order to, like, rerun a new line, you have to, like, tie into the stack, and my stack was full. And so, and then also the town of Middlebury, which is where this is at, isn't sure where my water meter is to turn it off. And the city sent out guys for 2 days with all their little devices, and to this day, they're like, I think your water, like, the main to turn off and on is underneath your concrete driveway. And so we never figured that out. So, like, if we needed to actually turn off the water, like, that was horrible. And it ended up being this, like, really daunting process. And then finally this random Amish man gets back from his, like, long wedding in Pennsylvania, comes back, is like, I'll rerun the plumbing lines. Like, he figures out a solution. I'm not entirely sure to this day how he fixed it, but they have working plumbing and it was $2,000.
Dang.
And that's my favorite story because it took me, like, I don't even know how many hours I spent on the phone calling and talking to plumbers and, like, getting laughed at by people like, haha, good luck finding someone to work on that.
Well, let's address that real quick and then we'll give everybody the grand total of your month of June. That's going to change a lot here. I don't know when we're going to drop this, when this is going to be released. But right now, we're in November of 2022. And my opinion is the housing market is going to take a really large step backwards in the next 12 months. And it's going to be funny because when you need somebody to come out, they're going to be Johnny on the spot. Because there's going to be a lot of these guys that were super busy that don't have any work anymore. And I've seen it happen before. I mean, I've gone through the cycles before. So, you know, the contractors, I'm too busy. No, I won't take that job now. You know, in 3 months, it's going to be like, please let me clean up your sewer line. That's what I really want to do. So things will change and they will be.
Oh, and I had a sewer main backup in a different property, but it just needed debris removed.
Yeah. So you're looking at about a $12,500 a month.
Yeah.
No, about 12,000.
By the end of the month, I think I was like, I just need to sell everything.
Yeah. I felt like that before. It's like,
it was one of those.
Yuko and I have actually had those months where you like 3 air conditioners go out and it's like $25,000 and it's like not that much, but was it 6 times, $18,000 or whatever. And it's like, is this worth it? And it is. I want everyone to know that it is.
Right.
Because the way
I hope so. That's what people like you keep telling me. But right now, I just feel very poor. So if anyone feels like that, I like to put that out into the world too.
but keep in mind, we were really poor for the first, I don't know, several years, just because we kept buying real estate and we weren't living off the rent. We were living off of our flips and our wholesale deals. And you live off of your W-2, which bears, not repeating, but bears. We should spend a little time on that too, because
that's fine.
So many people want to get into this business and quit what they're doing, and you can do that. Like Yuko and I have done it, and we're making moves right now where financially we can afford to sell some properties and pay off our Hawaii house and move up from the house we're in to the house that we want, and then we'll just buy more properties because we'll have freed up some money and we'll buy better properties. But that's with time. In the beginning, it's hard. It's always hard. Every business is hard in the beginning, and this is just another business, right? It's nothing more than a business you're starting. The only difference is that the taxes that you're paying on a regular basis go way, way down, right? And your net worth goes up.
Yeah.
It's great, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. I will say I finally started tracking my net worth again after a crazy year. And my net worth, so everyone's net worths are down, and mine's up 100,000 this year. So there's that. So like at some point I'm doing something right.
Well, and then I don't want this to sound like bragging because I'm not that guy.
Right.
I'm not that guy.
Right.
But I want people to know that there's a payoff. We're probably going to cash in, maybe $3 million in equity on some of our properties, and we're gonna cash that in, and we're gonna go do what we want to do with that. But we'll still have equity, and we'll still have other properties, and we're gonna take the money. So we've got private money in all of those properties also. So we'll take the equity, we'll pay off our house in Hawaii, we'll buy a new house here, sell the house we're in, and then we'll take the money that is available, the private money that we're taking out of those properties, we'll go out and buy some commercial property with that. We've got our eye.
Yeah.
So we're just changing the way things are for us right now because we've been doing this so long. But we had to start off the same way you did, which is, buying properties and going through the stuff that you have to go through. But that is... And
I point out the being broke phase, because partly it's funny around here because a lot of people feel the same way, but also most people would probably stop by now and be like, this is too hard, this is too much, I'm out. Mm-hmm. And now we get to see Mark, who has made it through the slog that I'm in now. Then you have the lifestyle, and it's different. And you have the $3 million cash out, and you do have options. Mm-hmm. And that's what keeps people in my spot going, because I've only been doing this I bought that house and I didn't buy anything for a year after that. So I've pretty much done everything in about a year and a half. So, and most of it in about 10 months. And so just kind of keeping going when you really, really don't want to, and everything's screaming, you should probably stop now. And your family's worried about you, and just knowing I don't know, to build the business is worth it, I guess. And to have a business that's actually sellable someday is important.
Because not everybody can do that. If you've got a service, we've got a couple of businesses that aren't sellable because Yuko and I are the product. We can't sell ourselves. So if we're not in the business ceases to exist. But we can sell our properties. So in if you want to compare a hamburger stand to real estate, they're kind of the same thing. You can sell the hamburger stand, but you can sell the real estate for probably a whole lot more. And we didn't put any money into our houses, right? We, from the first property we bought, we used private money, and we've never put a penny into a property since we started 14 years ago. So just that money that we're going to cash out is money that's free and clear to us on top of the cash flow and the tax benefits we've had all this time. And the reason I bring that up is because it's going to be available to everybody that sticks with this program, right?
Yeah.
And you know it. Obviously, that's why you're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's. I think what's nice is to be able to see someone like you that's coming up, and someone like me that's like making moves right now to enjoy my life. You know what little's left, because I am a father figure.
I think What little is left?
What little
He's
is
offended
left,
by the dad comment now. He's
I know.
like,
No,
working on
I'm
this.
not going to get over that anytime soon, and we are not friends anymore, and I don't like you. So as long as that's clear, as long as we know. So what is your why? Everybody has a why in this business, and for everybody out there that wants to know what a why is, it's why are you doing what you're doing?
Right.
Why are you suffering? And why are you
No one
building
suffers
this?
as much if they don't have one.
Yeah. And I'm really curious to hear what you have to say, because, and I always like to preface everything because I have a why for what I do. And everybody's is a little bit different. So go, what is your why?
Yeah. So my why is, well, I guess like on a basic level. So first I'm going to tell you the basic answer, and then I'm going to tell you the really borderline weird vision answer. So first of all, just like, so
I expect no less from you.
So the first would be really just so I don't ever miss anything my daughter has going on. Because I feel like I had the fortune of having like very present parents, and we did a lot of like traveling and trips together growing up, because my dad had a business and sold it. And so, but he was an engineer and did like a lot of like inventing, and I don't know if we've ever even talked about that, but
yeah, we did.
So I'm like, essentially, how do you build out, something similar? And I'm like, I'm not an inventor, like I'm in healthcare, I have a day job, like how do you build out something so you can kind of set your family up to not have to miss anything, to not have to like sacrifice. Like if I want to be at every dumb like recital and thing that kids have, and every like concert where you're like, my ears are bleeding.
Me. Yep, you do want to be there.
I don't want to miss those. And like this year, so for a couple years I'm in a pharmaceutical job, and so for years with the pandemic I wasn't traveling anywhere, and then I started traveling recently, and I missed her first picture day, and I was like, I hate this. And that's a lot of the reason I'm going so fast right now, is just I don't want to start missing stuff. And so, like, granted, she's in preschool. She's 3 years old. She's never going to remember that her aunt did her hair and not mom for picture day. Like, she's not even in grade school yet. It's going to be fine. Like, the world will continue turning. But I don't want to. I don't want to miss that. And so being there for that's really important. Because I kind of got started my career because I wanted a 9-to-5 job where I wasn't on call and wasn't, like, working nights and weekends. I could have a family. And then I was, not making any money, and that was also kind of miserable. And I'm like, I don't want to feel like broke all the time, and like, do I buy this pair of leggings today? Like, I'm too spendy, and I like it and it's fine, but it just wasn't the lifestyle that I really wanted. And so it's like, you need to have a more stable financial future than making $60,000 at a hospital and working. Like, I remember there'd be days where I'd go in and it'd be dark, and I'd go home and it was dark. And I was like, this is not like quality of life. And so that's kind of what's started my like career trajectory. And now I'm kind of in this space where I'm trying to keep building the real estate, but at some point pivot out to do either a different kind of job or to like slowly do that at some point. But building out this real estate is the key to kind of getting there for the lifestyle, is to have the flexibility.
How many people do you think live this quiet life of desperation where they're working a gazillion hours and they don't see a way out? What do you think the percentage
Most
of people is? Like 70%? 80%?
At least.
Yeah.
I know there's a statistic out there. I used to know it, where they would say like the percentage of people that actually love their job is the minority.
Yeah.
Or like doing their job.
Yeah. And I believe that it's really, really high, the amount of people that are living that quiet life of desperation, and the percentage is very low of people that even like their job. Like their job. Not love it, but even like it. And that so is real estate your escape hatch for that, do you think? Or is that more of a retirement play? Okay. All right.
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
First of all, I just enjoy real estate. Like, it's just super fun for me. So I like having that part.
Well,
but
do you think
it's a little bit of an escape hatch, but it's also a retirement plan, I guess.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. Is it more, I mean, what do you see? I mean, rentals alone, it's going to be a while before you can live on that. So
Right.
what else do you see in real estate that you can do that's going to create? So let me go back.
Yeah.
My theory is, and my theory is, you've got to have a day job of some sort, and it can be real estate related. That's fine. Like for me, I'm a real estate agent, I'm a flipper, I'm a wholesaler. That brings in plenty of money for us to live a great lifestyle. And our rental properties are, for a lot of other different reasons. Is that kind of the way you're looking at it, or do you plan on living off your rentals?
Eventually living off the rental. But I think like trying to find a different type of day job, because essentially I'm in my job right now because I chased the highest income I possibly could get in my line of work, because that was the point, is to build out the portfolio and like using your own money. But I'm kind of pivoting into more like the private money space and like using other people to lend, and trying to build up that pipeline of people so that I don't need like the bankability as much. And then I also feel like my job is a lot of travel. And so I'm just getting to the point where like my daughter is now 3 and I don't want to start missing things. And so there's always the point where I pivot into some other kind of work. And I think I'm about to the point where I'm going to change into something. But I think I'll stay in healthcare. Like, I like my field. I just need to figure out where exactly. There has to be this happy medium. Because I'm like, there's many people in healthcare that still like go to all their kids' stuff. So it's just finding a job with a little bit of flexibility, but then also like not stopping building out the rental empire. But honestly, with these midterm rentals, my cash flow is pretty good. So if I can figure out like time or get those managed even, the cash flow is a lot better on those rentals. So
I like the midterm rental thing. We have to talk about that on another podcast.
Yeah.
So you're doing it so you can spend more time with your daughter, but then there's a weird thing that you mentioned. What is that weird thing? What is your
my weird thing? So the like people always talk about like a vivid vision. I guess like if you're gonna go super into like the woo stuff. So my vision is like I drop my daughter off from school and I go work from like any coffee shop.
Wait,
so
let me close my eyes. Okay.
Yeah. So you go work at any coffee shop. It's like hipstery, like exposed brick walls.
Yeah.
Everyone working behind the counter has like a beanie on.
No. You know what the walls look like. Oh,
Yes.
Are you going to own this coffee shop?
No, it's already, I go like sit there a lot anyway.
Okay,
like I work from
good.
there. When I'm not
Good.
working from home, like I don't know, that's the one I picture.
No, just
in
don't
the
buy a
vision.
coffee shop. Don't buy a coffee shop.
I don't want to be in the restaurant
No.
business.
Okay, good. Okay, continue.
I'm about
continue.
ready to jump off the bridge with, not really, but midterms. Metaphorically, not literally whatsoever, but that one's enough hands-on, let alone a restaurant business. I'm not cut out for that. I would like to go sit at someone else's coffee shop with their exposed brick walls that I don't own.
Okay.
Maybe I own the plot of land it's on, but I'm not managing this restaurant in any capacity.
You're leasing it.
I can lease the building. I would like to triple net lease them, this property. And so you just sit there all day and like work on a laptop, and I can run my empire from like anywhere. So essentially I don't have a day job that I have to report to anymore. I can just go out of any coffee shop. And so whether I'm traveling somewhere, or like I could be in Florida and go work at a coffee shop for a few hours, or be in California and go work for a coffee shop. And so you just kind of make your living wherever there's Wi-Fi. And then at the end of the day, I can go pick up my daughter from school or go pick her up from vacation or something. And essentially, you just sit there all day on your laptop, and people are like, who is this girl that's always here? Like, does she even work? Like, what does her husband do? But, like, it's actually my money that I've earned.
Yes,
That's the dream.
Yeah. Okay, so you're describing my lifestyle, except I usually sit at home and do it. But yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
It took a long time to get here, but I love that lifestyle.
Yeah. So that's the dream, is you could be in any nondescript hipster coffee shop.
What color were the walls?
Brick, exposed brick. Or just like white. I feel like my current one's like white.
Or exposed. Okay. Yeah. So you're changing. You're redecorating.
It's exposed brick with white like accent walls, I guess.
Oh, okay. So it's a whitewash.
The brick wall is pretty consistent. Like if you give me a brick wall, I just have a lot of joy. Like I'm very into like colonial brick buildings. I don't own anything brick. I own like white boxes in Indiana. So someday I'll have something cool.
I will FaceTime you Yuko's potting shed sometime later this week, and you can see the exposed brick walls and
Yes.
It's good.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Maybe my dream is Yuko's shed. I don't know.
Oh no, it is totally. I don't know the final tally on the cost of that said shed, but yeah, it's there. It's beautiful. So I love your why. That's good. See, the one thing I was concerned about, there's this idiocy going around, and if you agree with me, great. If you don't, I'm okay with that too.
Yeah.
There's this idiocy, in my opinion, going around where people want to build generational wealth for their children, and I just think that is so stupid to think that you're doing everything so that you can give it to your kids and you scrimp and save for the rest of your life so you can do that so your kids can go blow it in 3 weeks.
Do you want to hear what my parents said?
Yeah, especially if it goes along with what I think, yes. Yeah.
I was in high school. And I vividly remember this moment because I got a little terrified, I think, and was like, holy shit, I have to do something with my life, which sounds really pathetic. Yeah. But when you live in the middle of nowhere in the Midwest, like, it doesn't take a lot to feel like your family is, like, doing pretty well. And so mom is like, we worked really hard from this. We're spending all of it. Don't think you're getting anything.
I love it.
Like, your dad worked his entire life and worked himself super hard, and you know, we like raised this family, and like, we're done and we're gonna enjoy it. And if we have nothing to pass on, that's fine, because if we raised you right, you shouldn't need it.
No, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like my partner Dan, you know, on Campfire Real Estate says, I want to blow the money on my kids while I'm alive, so I can watch them enjoy it. He goes, I don't want to watch them blow it after I'm dead because I won't be here to watch it. So it doesn't make any sense. And
that was probably the best advice I've ever gotten as a student. To like, it changed how I looked at jobs. It changed how I looked at colleges.
Yeah.
Like, I would go to college visits, and my friends whose parents like killed themselves and didn't make a lot, like maybe they were like, like I had a friend that like both her parents were teachers. Like, that is an amazing profession, but they were looking at private colleges. And my mom and dad sat me down very frankly and said, you will not go to this school. It is too much money. And I remember I have friends who went to these schools and took out hundreds of thousands of dollars in these private school loans. And my parents literally said, we love you and we'll support you, so if you have to go there, but like, please pick a public school. And they were just mortified. Like, my mom was like, we were at an admissions meeting, she'll still talk about this, where we were like in the college visit where you like walk the campus and they tell you like how pretty it is, and like how and I'm like, why do we pick campuses based on how pretty they are? It's bizarre. And you get into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt because like the campus is pretty.
So
and they're like, and it's, I don't even remember how much, like say it's like $10,000 a semester. I don't even know what's expensive nowadays. And my mom's like, a semester? What is it for the year? And like shrieked in the back, and they're like, ma'am, calm down. I was just, she was freaking out. Crazy. And no one else's parents seemed to give a shit. And it's just very interesting to me because they could have afforded it, but they were like, absolutely not. This is insane. My mom still thinks it's ridiculous that I ever pay that much for Starbucks. So I'm with you. And by the way, $10,000 a semester is a mediocre. I know, that's really cheap. I need a better example. Maybe it was 30.
It's like $50,000, $60,000 a year.
Yeah, I think it was probably like 30 to 50, and it was a semester, and she thought that's how much a whole year should cost.
Yeah. So I'm glad we're on the same page with that. And if anybody out there feels differently, you know, everybody's entitled to do what they want to do. If you want to work your ass off for the rest of your life so your kids don't have to, that's great. But think about it really, really hard for a while before you do that, before you commit to that. Maybe it's better if you enjoy your life and let them figure it out on their own so that they can appreciate it.
Yeah.
Enough said. Justin, maybe we want to keep that in, maybe we don't. No, keep it in.
Either way is fine.
We got to wrap this up, unfortunately, because otherwise we're not going to get any work done. We're not going to make any money today. quick question. How has private money changed your life? Because you and I have obviously spoken about that more than once.
Right.
How has that changed your life, and when was the first time you used it?
First time I used it was when I bought my house hack first. And so that was more of, like I just got into it that way because I was just wanting to finance a house without my ex-husband being tied to it, because we were just kind of still going through the divorce, and I was like just being really cautious about what I put in my name at the time. And so that's kind of how I got started. Was I just started going to friends and family and talk to them about financing real estate and put together like a private money pitch, which was terrible. Like my pitch has gotten so much better. So how anyone was like, yeah, let's lend to her is insane to me, but it worked out.
That's the way it works.
Yeah. And, you know, I had a really good business plan. I knew how much equity I could build in it. I knew, and the market definitely helped, I feel like, in 20 to 21, because I feel like I was really confident in the ARVs not really going down. Which I feel like now you'd have to be a lot more conservative, but it was pretty easy to kind of like know where your ARV was going to be in a year to refi.
Yeah.
So
Agreed. A little bit different now.
I will say, like, I don't want to not acknowledge the market definitely helped a little bit, but it was pretty easy to hit like basic numbers if you study the market at all. So
yeah, and there's certain ways to put it together. You figured it out, and there's certain ways to put it together that just work. So,
yeah, I did put all of my own money from like working into the rehab, so I spent like $26,000 of my own money to just like finish the house.
Shame on you.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't totally all private money. I still put $26K into it.
That's still pretty impressive. Most people, you know, when they first start with private money, you know, it's not the entire amount. You work your way up to it. We got lucky. I wasn't lucky. It was.
I've done a little bit of both now.
Really hard work. Yeah. So it's hard work getting it set up, but obviously it just keeps paying over and over. All right. So what is your goal for the next 12 months? If the planet is still around in 12 months, what's your goal?
Did you say the planet is still around?
Yeah, if the planet's still around in 12 months, what is your goal? And I don't mean that like in a, it's gonna blow up.
I know, it was just funny. At first I thought you said the, I forget what you were saying. At first I thought you said a different word than, I think you said climate. I'm like,
oh, no. We won't go there. I know,
I don't think we go into climate, but I will go into the planet being along is funny. So.
Yeah, no, the planet is gonna be here, but I think the financial side of it's gonna be a little bit different. What are your plans to deal with that, and what do you think is going to be happening in the next 12 months with the economy doing what it's doing right now?
Right. So I think I'm trying to be really careful on using private money and really careful on like not. So I got like quoted this week for like, or not this week, last week or the week before for both a commercial and a conventional loan, all above 7%. Yeah. I think my best one was 7% or 7.45 and buying down 3 points. Like it's just terrible. Yep. And then I have lots of people saying that's not that bad. You should have saw it back in like the 80s. But I mean,
sounds good.
I'm just like, oh my gosh. But again, like I kind of came up in like the financial independence people where essentially like bad debt, which like love it or hate it, is anything. Like I read a few books where like the cutoff is about 5% or 6% because long term, like your S&P 500 will return about a 7% rate of return. So I kind of like I use like a 7% as my baseline of what's shitty and not shitty, just because of how index funds perform.
But I don't disagree with that, but don't you agree with the fact that rates are probably going to come back down, and if you can find a way to make it work now, it's just going to be glorious in a year or two?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so it's just figuring out. So I guess with that being said, I'm not buying. I'm just trying to buy carefully. Yeah. So I'm kind of using everyone's fear of interest rates to leverage my way into cheaper private money is my plan. Yeah. Where I'm like, this rate's terrible, isn't it? And like everyone hates the rates right now. So like, do you want to lend to me at 7%?
Well, and and the fact that people are scared to put their money in the stock market right now, rightly so. Right. And putting it in a chunk of real estate is a smart move, in my opinion, right now. I just think it's a smart move.
So. And real estate over the long term is always probably going to be a smart move unless you like super overbuy. So I'm trying to buy this house right now. I actually talked to two new private money lenders to me, sourced off of Instagram originally. So I talked to two today about lending on a project, and essentially they both want to meet because traditional investment vehicles suck right now. No one wants to put money into stocks. Crypto is obviously a bloodbath. Like everything's kind of crappy, and so I feel like my terms on private money have gotten better. Where back in April I was like at 10%. I think private money, and it was a small amount. I borrowed like $40,000, but now I'm like I want 7%, and I want to amortize over 3 years. And that's just something that I wouldn't have really pitched in the spring when things were really hot and everything was hotcakes. So I feel like honestly, I can kind of leverage the threat of terrible interest rates on conventional mortgages in my favor to hopefully get private money cheaper.
Yeah, it puts you in a little bit more.
So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, I agree. I agree. And I think it puts you in a little bit more of the driver's seat. Not the driver's seat, but it it's like buying a house when the market was so hot. We had no control over what we were buying. I mean, we did, but we were at the mercy of 75 other people making offers. Now it's not the case. And I think it's going to be the same thing with lending. You're going to be able to get better rates, and people are going to be more excited to put their money in rather than buying Tesla stock or Facebook or Meta. Those kinds of things that are very scary.
Please don't buy
right
single
now.
stocks ever.
Yeah, no, I know. I agree. Well, with that, I appreciate you being here. I always appreciate you being here. And I respect you a lot, and I enjoy talking to you immensely. So thank you so
It's
much
always
for
fun.
being here. Yeah, I enjoy it.
And hopefully I'm going in the right direction with this private money plan. That's kind of my idea right now. So
I think you are. That's another thing we've talked about once or twice, and I think you are.
Yeah.
I think you got it.
And I do think Burr's a little scary right now with ARVs, but that's my constant worry about. I worry about ARVs, just estimating them correctly, because there's a lot of horror stories going on about people doing a bad job of it.
There's no good way to do ARVs right now. It just has to cash flow. It has to cash flow. So you just use cash flow as your barometer right now. So how can people find you if they want to find you somewhere?
I'm a current Instagram addict, so I'm on Instagram all the time. So under @NerdsGuideToFi on Instagram, or FI, however you want to say it.
We'll put that in the show notes.
Perfect. I also have a podcast under the same name. It's seriously neglected right now, but at some point it's going to make a comeback. And then I have a website all under the same name. But start on Instagram. That's probably the easiest way to find me, and I still answer all my DMs that I get. So
awesome.
Shoot me a message.
Awesome. As always, a pleasure, my dear.
Yeah.
Thanks
for all the
here.
advice and words of wisdom over the years. It's always been really helpful, and I'm excited for this next chapter of trying to put less of my money in.
I use you for content, so it's always good for me. I'm joking.
It's great.
No, I don't.
Please do. I don't care.
No, I don't.
You say that like I should be offended, but I'm not.
Okay, then we do. Justin, write everything down. We're using it all. Knock
yourself out. I don't even care. Just tag me. No. That's all I ask.
We will. Anyway, thanks for being here. And guys, thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time.